a new layer of the internet getting poured underneath everything that we interact with. Google's AI user numbers are inflated. Google's looking at what Anthropic is doing. If you're starting from scratch, look at this AI like a digital coworker. Use AI as the engine.
I think the first thing that we should do is we should introduce you because you have been the early adopters of AI and have been implementing a lot of things, building apps that removes the redundancy. So let's start from there.
All right. So everybody, hello, my name is Juergen. I jokingly call myself the steel toe boot coder recently. My background is engineering, so you can call me the nerd. I've been building power plants for 20 plus years, and I got into AI about 3 years ago, and there's nothing more empowering out there at the present moment. Also, in my free time, I have a small hobby farm. So on the weekends, you'd find me on my tractor, or I'll be volunteering in the national park system with technical rope rescue. I'm also a beekeeper. I'm a private pilot. I'm kind of a doer of many things, and I love staying busy.
And for the record, I would like the world to know that you are the guy who said that I don't wild code, I angry code, because that's really hits hard, So that's that. All right. Coincidentally, we are recording and Google I/O 2026 happened. I mean, it was mind-boggling, one of the best that Google has done in recent years. And when we watched it, what was that one thing that made you stop and think, this changes things? What was that one thing?
Yeah, I mean, this year there was definitely a lot. Maybe the most I've watched them ship in a single I/O. The one thing that generally made me stop was the shopping side. And I know that might surprise some people, but the concept of like a universal cart and a universal commerce protocol and the agent payment protocol, I think we're going to look back at those just like we see MCPs nowadays. That's going to be the way of the future. Most people watching probably just scrolled past that part because it just sounded like plumbing. But if you're paying attention, it's where agents are going to be able to have the three pieces and the rails to let them, one AI talk to another AI and actually transact. I mean, many of us have been spending the last 2 years playing with AI and agents to like help us plan a trip or research a product. And now they'll be able to actually like buy your airfare and like book your Airbnb for you. So that's not like just a feature. That's going to be like a new layer of the internet getting poured underneath everything that we interact with. A lot of the rest of the keynote was agent stuff, right? Which is the area I've been trying to live in for the last few years. I mean, we've got 24 automated workflows running right now, and a lot of them are doing exactly what Google was demoing on the stage. So like part of me was watching these sections thinking like, yes, like this is what I've been telling my team for the last year. But the other part of me was almost like, oh, okay, the rest of the world is going to catch up really fast now. One thing I do want to call out, and I don't know if anyone's really talking about it, is I think Google's AI user numbers are inflated. They're forcing AI into search now. So, which means anyone who's doing a Google search, like Google searching anything over the last week, they are counted as an AI user in Google's counts. And that's not the same thing as someone who chose to open up Claude or chose to open up ChatGPT this morning, right? So when you see these headline user numbers, keep a little skepticism about those.
And I think that's probably because a lot of people don't know that when they search, it's actually Gemini giving them the answers. It's like just another added layer of search, but for them, it's just basically a search. Probably they are also not realizing that they have to scroll through all those pages on the search rather than getting a pinpoint answer to that. So that's happening. And when we talk about this whole stuff that is happening, do you think like Google or let's say maybe Apple has an unfair advantage because of their supply magnitude?
I mean, distribution is a challenge, right? Like Apple has iPhones in many people's pockets, right? Google is the default thing that we go to for search, right? So distribution, they will be king of that.
Yeah. So because everything is now going to be each one of their products like Gmail and search and all I think they are going to be just another layer of Gemini on top of that, and probably I think it's an unfair advantage for them on the whole. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on the new search and the Spark development?
Yeah, it was interesting, right? Search is one I keep thinking about because it's really about like working, right? Like we've all had to look for information, right? 2 years ago, you would Google something and you would get this list, right? You would pick one, skim through it, and you get your answer a little bit at a time. But like today, you ask the same question and you get a paragraph and it's already been summarized for you. And you don't need to comb through all of the top three links, right? And that sounds like a small change, but it isn't. Like that whole muscle of like, how do I dig for an answer has been rewired in the last few months. And it's going to touch a lot of people, right? Like how our kids look for things for homework, how we plan a trip, or the risk in searching for stuff. Like we need that muscle, right? And the answer comes back so confident. And sometimes it's wrong. And a whole new generation of searchers don't think about double checking that, right? And that skill, we have to teach that and treat the AI answer like it is a coworker's first draft and not like the final word. Now on the Spark, right? Spark is super interesting, right? You know me, I've been playing with OpenClaw, and Spark is going to be more that common person's OpenClaw clone. Like Google's looking at what Anthropic is doing, and they want a harnessed agent that is dedicated to their lane, which is fine. Like I do not care who builds it first. I care that another billion people now will have access to harnessed AI without having to install anything. And that is a huge win, right? The bottleneck was never smart people can't code, right? It's smart people who were told coding belonged to developers, right? Now Spark and Claude and Replit, that whole category is just opening up a whole new world, right? The next generation of operators in any industry, it's going to not have to wait for IT to build your tool. They will just build it themselves. And that's super empowering.
So, when people hear about AI passing humans by 2029, I mean, there are mixed reactions to it. Obviously, some are scared, some are excited. What does the future actually look like when that happens?
I don't want to put a year on it, but I think what I want to do is more tell a story. Like if I walk myself back through the last 10 or 15 years of my own work, there's a list of tools and services that I've picked up and I generally cannot do work without, right? Some were software, some were services. Each one at the time looked optional, but like looking back, none of them were, right? They compounded and they quietly moved the floor up. For most of those years, that pace was just steady, right? Like it would be like one or two things the year, and then it just materialized bigger and bigger. When AI came around, it doubled. And then when December came around, it just doubled again. And I'm not exaggerating, right? Like the version of me in November of last year cannot do what the version of me can do today in May of 26 in an afternoon. That's 6 months. And I'll look at it this way. A few months ago, I built my first API. Maybe I shouldn't say I built my first. Claude built my first API. And then a few weeks later, I had Claude build another API for a second application I had. And now I'm sitting in meetings with our software providers and I'm pulling up my YAML example for these projects and showing them what I want. And those YAML examples are good enough that they're taking it seriously. And that's not bragging. That's just me telling you that the floor has moved under my feet in a quarter. And then take that delta, a steel toe boot guy, right? Coding with no formal software background goes from not touching an API to bringing an API to a meeting, right? Run that forward 4 more years, and the version of me in 29 is doing things that I literally don't have the vocabulary for yet. So imagine that same slope under someone smarter than me, an oncologist, a person that's discovering new drugs, a structural engineer. Like the floor is rising under all of them at the same rate. And they're starting from a higher position than me, right? So what does the future actually look like in concrete terms? I think every knowledge worker has an AI like shadow that's helping them with 60 to 80% of the work that they used to like grind through. The people that are able to direct that shadow are going to get a kind of leverage that like never existed in the past, right? And that last part is what nobody wants to say out loud, right? The gap isn't between humans and AI. You have heard me say this many a times, right? It's between the people using AI well and the people not using AI at all. And that gap
Yeah.
is getting wider every month. So what I just keep on telling my team is you do not have to be the best person in the room at AI. You just have to be in the room. And the sad part is most people aren't even in the room.
So this might be off context, but is this what super intelligence is going to look like?
I mean, super intelligence is going to be is scary in one aspect, but empowering another aspect, right? You look at like what Google is doing with folding proteins, like the amount of research that will happen with smart people is just going to be wicked cool to see.
So you have been early adopter, and you have been telling people to start using AI. Obviously, there is that bickering, and there is that wall that needs to be pushed down. But I, as an individual, is starting to implement AI in my business today. Uh, what does the 30-day workflow look for me for my first 30 days? How does it look?
Yeah. So what I usually tell people that are trying to bring AI into their workspace, right? So day one, super simple. Audit your work, and I would audit it with 3 buckets: theater, commodity, and durable. So the theater work, that's the work that exists because like the organization needs to perform it, right? Not because anyone necessarily needs to use it. And those are things like the Monday status meeting where like nothing really gets decided, or like a daily report that like nobody really reads, or like maybe you have this spreadsheet that you have to format in different ways for different stakeholders, right? So that's theater. Then we have like commodity work, and that's like real work. It doesn't need you specifically, right? So maybe like an estimation, a takeoff, a RFI tracker, or submittal logs, daily logs, right? A person or even an intern, if you gave them the right tools and the right training, could still do that same work, right? It's a commodity work. Then there's the durable work, right? That's like the design conflict that like you caught, the change order conversation that's like saved a relationship with your vendor. It's the trust that you
Yeah.
carry with your subs. And that's the part, at least for me, that like I got into this for, right? Like that's the part that it'll be hard for anyone to take away from me. So I would start by opening a document and like listing your week and tag every line of whatever you did last week into those categories, because that's going to help us as we try to look at it with an AI lens. And then on day 2, I would start picking a home base, right? I don't want you to bounce between a whole bunch of different models or something new comes out next week. This is just 30 days. So I would commit to one AI ecosystem. And if I had to force one onto you, it would be Claude Desktop. I would stick with Claude. Now, your work might require you use Google, and if so, I would download Anti-Gravity and not think about it. Similar, like if your work makes you use OpenAI, I would download Codex and not even think about it, right? I don't necessarily care which one you land on, but I want you to live in that base camp for 30 days. Just pick one. So install that desktop app on your computer, install the mobile app on your phone, and that will be your AI for the next 30 days, right? I don't want you to play with a whole bunch of Chrome tabs open up anymore. I don't want you switching between different chat bots. Just stay with one, pick a home base. Then on day 3 through that next like 8-ish days, right? I would walk through like the major capabilities. And most of these all have the same thing. They just might call them different things. So on day 3, I would just really play with chat in the desktop app. Get comfortable with it. Ask it questions. Push back on answers. Learn what like a good prompt feels like inside of that one application. Don't try to be clever. Just build the muscle and play with certain things, right? Like ChatGPT has Canvas when you're starting to use chat, right? This is your new
Yeah.
digital coworker, and I want you to start just understanding how to talk to it. So that was day 3. On day 4, they all have a version of like projects. It's just where you're going to organize a lot of your contexts, right? So you'll open up a project, you'll upload like your common documents, your notes, and your references. That's why you don't have to keep on uploading them every single time. So whenever you open up a chat inside that project, it knows that back history. And then you won't have to keep on refreshing and wasting tokens every single time you're starting with that, right? So that's on projects. On day 5, I would start working on scheduling. They all have some version of this, right? So I want you to think about one of those theater or like commodity items. And I would think about how you could schedule it that it could automatically run on a cadence. And so that way, then the first time you wake up, that report is already drafted for you. And this whole AI as a digital coworker thing will start clicking on day 5. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still going to need iterations, but you're going to start getting used to like having your AI scheduled tasks. Then all of them have some version of like a co-work or computer use. And this is the mode where AI will actually have access to your files on your computer, can do things on your machine, not just like talk about them. So you're going to drop in a folder, like maybe your downloads folder, and ask it to clean it up. Or you'll hand it some kind of messy Excel sheet and ask it to fix certain components about it, formula that's broken or the headers that you don't like. And you're going to start watching the difference between how chat felt and how co-work felt. And that's going to be something that really clicks with you and you probably won't go back. The next thing is going to be routines. This is a similar pattern as scheduled tasks, but the thing is it doesn't need your computer. The scheduled task needed your computer open to run. So that is a caveat, right? Like if you close your machine, it's not going to work. Routines and agents will run in the cloud. So there's pros and cons to that, right? So now the caveat is it won't have maybe access to all your files on your desktop, but it might have access to other things that you needed to do. So there is a little bit of a trade-off there, but I want you to get comfortable with those executing things on the cloud versus executing things locally. On the 8th day, if you've never written software before in your life, that is completely fine. But this is where we should start getting into coding, right? So get into Claude Code, get into Codex, and just tell it to help you write a script. And if you don't know what script to write, just ask it to say, hey, give me 3 examples of everything that we've been chatting about, maybe 3 possible scripts that could help me automate some of my life. And then watch it build one of those scripts, right? We've talked about Python cookbooks before, and this is where we might start building our Python cookbook. So we're not learning to code, right? We don't need to necessarily understand the code, but we are learning to direct a coder to help us build that code. All right, so that's been a lot, right? Now we're somewhere between like day 9 and day 20. I want you to go back to that audit and take some of that theater list, and we want to kill more and more of those items every like 2 or 3 days, right? We did that whole audit. We killed one through those first 9 days. Now we want to kill one every 2 or 3 days. And we're just going to rinse and repeat that and do that same thing and see if any of the commodity and theater work can go. And then to close off either the last 2 days or the last day of the 30 days, I would ask that you just teach one other person on your team what you did. Don't want you to do it in a meeting. Just show one person like one specific thing that you used that maybe used to took you hours and it's now taking you minutes. Curiosity is contagious only when it's specific, right? And the whole plan is to stop trying to transform your whole business in a month, right? Just tag your work, pick up one home base and live in it, and delete one annoyance every couple of days. And then to close it off and put a ribbon, teach somebody else.
And one of the thing is like in the initial days, when a business actually starts implementing AI, and I think this also happened with me. I was looking to straight away jump into building agents. And it was so overwhelming that, okay, what I'm doing, how am I supposed to do it? So I think it would be a better idea to just start with a simple chat. If you are using Claude or ChatGPT, just start with a chat, tell it about maybe the list that you're building, ask it to build the list of your redundancies or some repetition, and then take it from there. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we're so excited about this, right? Like we hear all of these things like, oh, I vibe coded an application in one shot in a few hours, right? Like, so, and it's like, I'm not doing the same thing, but like, just learn how to talk to this new digital coworker and just imagine if you showed at work and it's your first day on the job and your boss is like, hey, I want you to code an application in an hour, right? Like that would be frustrating for a human. So I just asked, like, look at this AI like a digital coworker. Even though it's a very smart and empowering digital coworker, look at it as a coworker and learn how to chat with it first.
If you are starting with like very early with AI, does prompting still matters? Is AI still in that stage like it was back in November, December, where prompting was one of the main things that you have to be real accurate, or is it getting better?
Yeah, it's one of those things like if you're starting from scratch and you have no AI background, you're going to have to learn it. If you've been dabbling with AI for the last year or two, I would focus less on prompting and more on interviewing. I think a lot of people get frustrated, like, I got to build this massive prompt and tell this story. And a lot of times you can just say, like, hey, I'm trying to build X. Ask me one question at a time with numerical multiple choice until you have enough information to help me build X. And then it will just have a conversation with you. And it's very similar to like a regular coworker, right? Like sometimes I hand something to one of my coworkers and they'll have questions about it. Hey, did you mean this? Did you mean this to be upside down? Did you want this to be blue? And you need to have that more conversation versus just like brain dumping everything all at once.
So there should be like a really focus in the initial days when we are talking about the first 5 days or 6 days. Uh, they should be like really accurate with the prompting, or they should be like focusing on more towards a conversation approach, like they might do with their colleague or coworker at their workplace.
I would focus less on prompting, but understand the direction that you want to go, right? Like, because if you tell it, I need this report that's like this, but that's actually not what you need, you're going to waste a lot of time with that. So as long as your direct, like the tires of the car are pointing in the right direction, you can go a lot of great places. But if it's pointing in the wrong direction, it's just going to be a mess. So I would just focus on just chatting with it more. Sometimes people call it chain of thought versus prompting.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. So, what do you think people make their first mistake when starting with AI? Is it choosing the wrong tools, the prompts? What happens over there?
I think we've kind of like already been hitting on it a little bit, right? Like the biggest mistake is treating AI like a search engine, right? It's not Google.
Yeah.
If you look at it as a digital coworker, that's going to be the best thing. So when you Google something, you get an answer and you take it and you leave it and you move on, right? People bring that exact muscle memory to AI and they type a sentence and they read the response and they judge the response and then they just conclude. Then they haven't had like a coworker before and they're treating this way. And it's not a human I would put it with it, right? Like no human would put up with that, right? Like I asked you a question, I run away, right? Like a human is that back and forth. And we keep on talking about that chain of thought, right? So our new like digital coworker needs what every coworker needs, right? They need a little bit of context. They need a little bit of back and forth. They probably need a whole second pass after they've asked you for clarifying questions. And there needs to be a willingness to say like, no, not like that, maybe more like this. And that's the feedback that you're going to give. And you're going to let your digital coworker try again. And the people who get the most out of AI are the people who already know how to like onboard a new hire because that muscle is the same with these AI models. The second mistake is using AI for the wrong shape of a problem, right? AI is excellent in language and it can sometimes be bad at other things. So, like we've talked about, doing something programmatically the same way every time. A Python script, something dumb and simple, can be more reliable forever versus an AI having to like learn this thing and reform this Excel sheet. There's something that I say like using smart AI to design like dumb Python script that just works. So I
Yeah.
think that's the other thing is sometimes we always don't need Einstein to change the Excel sheet.
One of the things that I also feel is kind of frustrating is like people's tendency to use AI for the basic stuffs, like drafting an email and then just leaving it at that point.
Yeah. So like a couple years ago when I started getting into AI, that's exactly as I was using AI, right? I come from an English as second language family. So I'd sometimes use words wrong. I'm not really good with spelling. So it was a great proofreader and it was good at first. But what I noticed is I tried doing some reinforcement learning. So maybe I write version 1, it writes version 2, and then I write a version 3, and that's actually what I send off. I would save that version 3, and then at the end of every month, I would give it the version 2 and the version 3, so that way it can learn like, hey, I didn't let you know this, but I changed the example that you gave me. And it would learn my writing more and more, and the tone sounded more like me. And that prompt that I have is now really powerful. It sounds like me, it helps me proofread it. And a lot of us, maybe 20, 30 years ago, in the level of or the role that we're in right now, we would probably have had an assistant that helped us with that, right? But in our workforce, we don't have that position much anymore. So now that AI is that proofreader. So I don't see that as a bad thing.
And do you think one of the main reasons for this mistake that people make, could trust be another factor that they are not trusting it enough?
It could be a trust. There's also a lot of things that are happening really fast. Like sometimes people don't realize like, oh, it can do that. It can make me an image. It can play in my Excel sheet, right? Like some of these things just came out weeks ago. And because a lot of us might be using it every day, we take it for granted, but it just happened practically yesterday. And the pace of industry has never moved this fast, right? Before, if you learned how to do an X lookup in Excel, you were set for years, right? Where now it's like things are changing just week on week.
All right. So suppose you're giving AI to two people. Okay. One of them uses it and becomes 10x more productive, 10 times more productive, right? And the other one, he just quits after using for 3 days, saying AI is not for me, it's not useful. What's the difference? What happens in these two scenarios?
The people that I see successful usually have two things. They have an experience like as a manager and they have something that's making me angry or making them angry, right? And you've heard me say like, right,
Okay.
angry
Yeah.
coder. And I think you need both. One without the other might not get you 10x, maybe it gets you like 2x or something. But starting with management, because that's like the steering wheel. Like managing a team of digital coworkers is the same muscle memory as managing a team of humans. Like you're holding a vision in your head of where the work needs to go, right? You're breaking that vision down into action items. You're keeping a list of all the to-do list items that need to happen. Like you're planning the work that the next move, even though the current move is being run right now. Like, and you're tracking who is working on what and who's getting blocked by what. And then you're giving those people feedback and then you're course correcting, right? That's a lot of management muscle memory that hugely benefits you with AI agents. And if you're already bad at these things with humans, AI is not going to rescue you. You're going to have 5 digital coworkers spinning their wheels because you can't tell them what to do. You can't tell them when they're done, and you can't connect with what they just produced or what's coming next. And that's not an AI problem, right? That's a management problem that like you brought to the table. Management on its own isn't enough either, right? We've talked about the energy behind it, right? Plenty of well-organized people can open up Claude and type a few prompts, and then they'll get bored and close it. And that's just nothing, right? You need to have that something that makes you mad. Like I'm frustrated that I have to do this all the time, or this is so inefficient, right? And really break the things in your week that you want gone, and that will fuel you. Without it, you have no reason to push through that messy middle, that brick wall that you're going to need to break through. That first answer isn't going to be right, and usually the second one isn't either. And you're going to need that fuel to break through that messy middle. And you don't stop until that thing is fixed, because the alternative is going back does something that is broken, and something that makes you mad. Um, and that's the formula. Management is the steering wheel. Anger is going to be that gas, and then use AI as the engine, and take away any one of those three, and just the car won't move. So the question to ask before you try AI isn't, do I have the right tool? It's just those two questions. Can you manage workers? And is there something that you have energy behind?
So two questions from this. Is it necessary for a person to be a good manager to be able to manage these tools? They need to have that managerial skills, something that not everyone actually have.
I think management skills are needed. Now, maybe you don't have them yet, and maybe playing with these digital coworkers slowly gives you that muscle, right? We all had to start from somewhere, right? We all didn't just wake up one day and be these great managers. We all had those opportunities.
Yeah,
We all
yeah,
had those people that we rubbed the wrong way because we didn't
yeah.
say it the right way. What I was thinking didn't come out of my mouth the right way, and they went down the wrong path, and they got frustrated with me. So if you're not, just use AI to slowly teach you those skill sets. I mean, and if you don't know and you struggle, ask AI how you could be a better manager of it.
I think the second thing is also it's the human nature of being reluctant to try anything new. I mean, have you seen those reels that are going viral where people are saying, if anyone tells me to use AI again, I'm gonna quit my work, and that has been getting like millions of views. So I think that's also the human nature, to be reluctant to try these new things because maybe they just don't want to adapt it or accept it or something like that.
It's getting tiresome. I mean, geez, you go on anything, be it social media or LinkedIn, or everyone's talking about AI, right? Like, it gets a little tiresome. And I think people are learning the tool, so that's exciting. But I think the same content that you're trying to push out, or the same work that you're trying to push out, can be augmented with AI. And that's going to be the really interesting thing. I think you're going to see it on LinkedIn. You're going to see it in people's Excel sheets, right? Like, I've just been dabbling with it, and that's exciting, and it's fine.
So since I started working with you, I started getting more into this AI world, and I started having that thing that okay, a new tool is coming up. Some AI CMO came out in the market, and all that happened. And whenever this new tool launches, I feel like okay, I haven't tried it. Should I try it? If I leave it, I might be, the fear of missing out on
Yep.
this. Does that happen to you? And is it like a necessary phenomenon, or it's just something that you have to keep ignoring?
No, I mean, I think
Like you don't need to attend every AI party. You just need to get on the right one.
I mean, FOMO is a real thing, right? Like, FOMO was a real thing before AI, right? Like, oh, wow, look, my
Yeah,
friend's eating at this great restaurant and I'm not, right? So FOMO, it happens
yeah,
all the time. And if anyone is telling you that it doesn't, like, you have to know they're just lying, right? The trick is the filtering, right? Like, every time I see this new launch, I just have to ask it a few questions, right? Like, does this change any of the workflows that I actually have, right? Like, not could it change a hypothetical workflow? Does it actually change one that I'm running this week or today? If it's yes, then I'll spend a few hours on it and dabble with it. If no, I'm going to bookmark it for some future thing, right? And like, most of the launches don't even pass that test, right? Most are just
yeah.
incremental improvements. And sometimes I'm already using a part of it, and there's a tool for a different problem, and the hype is real. But personally, like, it's frustrating, especially when you see something new and it's 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. at night, right? Oh, I gotta stay and listen to this for another hour. I would say, like, it's still gonna be there tomorrow.
It happened with me yesterday. So there was this AI CMO, and I quickly clicked it and started put on my details and stuff. And then the data that it gave me, it was like a 2-minute work on Claude.
Mm.
And that's a $99 subscription plan that they were selling with that. Okay. Is the right approach should be that, okay, wait and watch. Don't just jump into it.
Yes and no. It all depends on your personality, right? Like, I have an entrepreneurial spirit. So if I'm not an early adopter, I'm going to be behind, but I'm not going to necessarily have to be an early adopter tonight, right? So, like, it might be this weekend, right? Because I try to set aside 8 hours every week for free space for me to think, or for me to plan my next week, or for me to play in my sandbox, right? Part of being a human is constantly learning. So that's why every week I just carve out 8 hours. That is my sacred space where I have time to try new things or plan the future. Or maybe I just need to sit and like meditate and be mindful, right? So I would say still dip your toes, but understand that that opportunity still exists tomorrow. But I wouldn't wait months and months and months, right? This is a very empowering year. And I would say dabble in it a little bit, but don't get stressed.
Okay, makes sense. So now I think we are in a generation where we are probably past that time that, okay, we have to get into study and decide on whether the course that I'm going to take it does have a future or not. What would you tell an 18-year-old who's trying to figure out what to study
Yeah. And I
and
have a,
has that fear that, okay, the course that he might be taking, that job might not exist once he has completed it, by the time he has completed it?
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of friends and family who have kids at that age, right? Like they're getting out of college or they're about to go to college, right? If you're not in college yet, I would say some of this might be controversial. But like, I don't know about picking a major versus picking a problem, right? You keep on hearing me say like the energy behind something. And I said this before AI, right? Like if a friend of mine was like, oh, my kid is thinking about going to business school. I would say, like, did they ever have a lemonade stand? Did they ever have a paper route? Did they ever mow yards? Did they have a business mindset? If not, then why are they going into business, right? My son wants to go into engineering. Like, did they take apart things all the time? Were they always asking curious questions and mixing things together? If not, why are they going into engineering, right? What's the energy behind the stuff? So if you're 18 and you're trying to choose a degree based off of what jobs will exist in 10 years, we all know it's going in the wrong direction, right? Nobody knows what jobs are going to exist in 10 years. And the list of jobs that will exist in 2036, geez, think about that, probably don't even exist today, right? That list of
Yeah.
jobs won't exist, and it's being written every 6 months. So I would flip the question. Like, don't try to predict what slot you're going to fill. Pick a problem that you actually care about. Pick a place where something is broken that you wish wasn't broken. Maybe that's healthcare. Maybe that's climate. Maybe it's construction. Construction was for me. I always was playing in the dirt and I loved building things. I built forts in my backyard. I built tree houses, right? Maybe it's education for you. Maybe it's food. Maybe it's your hometown. It doesn't matter, but I would pick a problem and that will be your domain. Then learn enough of everything to be dangerous in that domain. Um, some will be software, some will be writing, some will be math. A little of how the industry actually works, right? A little of how like to talk to people. And on top of all of that, start building in some AI fluency with whatever problem you're trying to solve. Not as a separate skill, right? To bolt on later, right? It's going to be a layer on everything else that you're learning, and start that with day one. And the kids who are going to pick a problem and stack AI on top of it, on every skill that they're building, is going to look unstoppable in 5 years, right? Yeah. The kid who picks a safe major and treats AI as a separate thing to learn later is going to be the one who wonders where their job went, right? College is still worth it for many people, but the value is not the degree. Truthfully, the value has never been the degree, right? It's been that determination, that willingness to learn, that perseverance, the networking, right? The value is the 4 years of compounded learning. Use those 4 years to pick a problem and just get dangerous in it, right? Not pick a slot and get a certification. That's all I would recommend.
If someone watches this podcast and opens their laptop, what would be the one thing they should be doing in the first 15 minutes?
Similar, like we start with the 30 days, right? Like I would open up a blank document and list 3 things that you did at work this week that made you angry. Don't think, just right. Pick the smallest one and open whatever AI tool you have. Tell it in plain English, like what you do and what you wish like happened instead. Read what it gives you and tell it what's wrong with the answer. And just keep on iterating on that. And that's it. Like 15 minutes. You do not have to ship anything. You do not have to learn a new tool. You just have to feel what it's like to delete just one annoyance from your week. And the rest is just going to be repetition, right? The point isn't becoming some AI expert, right? The point is stop being mad about the same thing every Monday morning.
So the thing I think I'm noticing, and this was, so I had a conversation with a business owner a month back. He wanted to remove those repetitive work with AI. I had a conversation with him yesterday, and he was still thinking about it. And the major problem I saw that he had built a whole system and he wanted to replace everything in one go. Like he wanted to do everything in one. And my question is like, why do you need to do it in one go? It just starts basic. The work is already being done by someone else. You just start basic, remove it step by step, small steps instead of trying to be a real expert into this thing. And I think that is one of the results.
And I think I have friends like that, right? They'll make a whole list, they'll think it all out. And there are benefits to having that mindset, right? Like I am willing to ship something in a couple hours and it be broken and someone call me up and like, this is trash, but I at least know the direction, right? And then I can keep on iterating on it. But in some environments, that is super dangerous, right? Like if you're a chemist and you just rush around to do stuff, like that might not be the right mindset. So I do have some friends, like we all have heard it, right? Like analysis paralysis. And I've had to kick them in the shin and be like, just ship it, right? Like this is the time when you're going to have, it's that muscle has served you throughout your career, but now you got to break that muscle. Otherwise, this whole system is going to break you. So
you have to start from somewhere, like even if it's small. And I think the best thing would be to ask Claude to make a list of those repetitive works.
or you set up a schedule to say like, hey, I have 2 days to ship this thing, and I want you to set a reminder to schedule in 2 days to remind me that I am supposed to ship today. And I've seen it. Like I've helped a lot of friends build their first applications, and they use it a lot. And I asked them a question like, hey, when are you going to start sharing it with your other users in your company? And they're like, the end of April. I'm going to ship it the end of April. I'm like, that's 4 weeks away. Or do you feel like that's a fair goal? Like that is achievable. Perfect. And then they might not ship it for 2 more weeks. They ship it the second week of May. Is that a failure that they missed the deadline? I would say like, hell no, right? Like they still ship something, but they also saw in their mind, like I was committed to the end of April and I still dragged my feet. And as long as they iterate that and learn that, like that is also a super empowering thing. Like you talked about being a bad manager, right? They're seeing inside of themselves like that bad product manager that they are. And little by little, they'll fix it.
I think this is a bit philosophical, I think. So does AI ultimately create more meaningful work for people, or does it just redefine what meaningful work looks like?
Yeah. So I'm going to lean towards the both answer, right? So I'm cheating there a little bit, right? The second half, I think, is more important half. And it's redefining. The new definition is mostly better, but only if you're participating in this exciting new era that we're in with AI, right? And here's what I mean. In the past, I got into some of the AI with AI voice. Started it 3 years ago. There's no turning back for us, right? And in the past, when you called maybe a utility company, it was normal to hear hold music, right? To wait for a live agent. Now we have AI voice agents that can handle routine calls faster than a human, right? So our live agents at our call centers, like they didn't disappear. We didn't release anybody. They just moved up the food chain. And now they spend their days on calls that require judgment, right? The angry customer, the unusual issue, and that's meaningful work. It's also much harder work, right? They went from maybe 40 calls a day at a low level of effort to 10 calls a day that are very high effort, right? So at the end of the day, their end of day exhaustion looks very different. But I also hope that their like end of day satisfaction also looks different too. And that's the pattern across like every team I've watched go through this, right? We need to just move and go away from the theater, right? And then the commodity is next. And then what is left is like that durable work, the judgment calls, the relationships, the recognizing a pattern that took years and years to build. And that work will always be meaningful, but you didn't have time to do it because you were just drowning in everything else on your job. But there is a catch, right? This upgrade to doing all the durable work is not automatic. It's going to happen from the people who are learning how to direct AI. Like, the people who don't learn how to direct AI will end up watching AI do their work and just being this like rubber stamper approval. Like, oh yes, that looks good. Oh yes, that looks good. Right. And I don't know many people that will find that being fun, watching a machine just click approve and do that, right? It pays the same, but it's just going to kill you slowly, right? So the real question isn't, will like AI make work more meaningful? I think the real question is, are you going to be the person directing it, or are you going to be the person like watching it? And if you're directing it, it gives you back the part of your job that you used to love, but just had no time for. Downside is, if you're just watching it, AI is going to take everything that even was mildly interesting and just leave you with just leftovers. It's going to be the same technology, but a very, very, very different relationships, right? And they're two different complete outcomes. So the honest answer is, AI defines what meaningful work looks like, and the new definition should be better, more humans, more judgment heavy, but you can't claim it. Like, the technology doesn't hand it to you for free, right? You're going to have to be participating in this.
Yeah, and one of the things I have seen is when this participation happens, with some people, it does build a level of frustration. That okay, this is not working the way I wanted it. This is it's like they are thinking the other way around. That okay, I'm not controlling it. This thing is controlling me, and it's not following the right directions. Then they think that okay, I should have done it myself. It's not a meaningful work for me.
Well, we've all seen that manager, right? That like delegated a task for you, and they saw you do it once, and like, oh no, you did it wrong. I'm gonna take it back. Right?
Yeah.
So that gets back to the
Okay.
management skill, right? Like, if you just as soon as they're learning something, you take it away from them, they're never going to learn it. And trust me, the angry coded, vibe coded programs that we're making, right? Like, they have bugs in them, and it's super frustrating. I mean, we had one of our software accidentally book appointments over this last holiday weekend. It was a bug. We never caught it. And a first response would be like, oh, this is a piece of junk. Let's throw it out. It's like, it's a piece of software. We can fix this. Let's learn from it. Let's call the individuals that we accidentally made appointments with, and let's fix it. So if you're a bad manager and you always are hovering over your coworkers and you're always taking away things and you're not letting them learn, you're going to probably have that same relationship with these digital coworkers.
And does this meaningful work like so? I've been talking to one of these guys, and he said, "Yeah, it's going to be very expensive." So does this meaningful work is going to be like really expensive? Like a small business cannot afford it, or it's like just like hiring an employee. Where does that infrastructure cost uh, stands in the whole scenario?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it, right? Chips are hard to make. Compute is going to be harder maybe to obtain. Tokens might get more expensive. But I think if you know, like, hey, this is a simple question, I can send this to Google, just a Google search. This is a simple question, I can send this to a local model that I have on my computer, right? I have a local model sitting on my computer. In what world would I have an AI agent sitting on a little cube on my desk, right? Like, that's very empowering. And this AI model costs me nothing but electricity. So I'll have a cheap model that I can ask simple questions, like the simple questions I was asking ChatGPT a year ago. But this model on my desktop can't do the same things that Claude Code can do today. But who's to say in another year that the same desktop computer I have could do that, right? So like, oh, woe is me that I'm using an AI model that's a year old, right? Like, that's still very empowering. But yes, people with money will always have access to better things than yourself, right? There's obviously a $20 Claude plan. There's a $100 Claude plan. There's a $200 Claude plan. And they all give you different things, right? Like, you pay $200, you get 20x the speed. That's really impactful when you're trying to make a whole bunch of software, right? And there's a reason why I subscribe to the $200 plan, because I want that access. But the $20 plan is still very, very empowering.
So again, it comes to the difference will be how you are delegating it.
100%. Simple. And it's just like when you go to work, right? Hey, I got an Excel question I'm going to ask the Excel guru, right? I got a big question I need to ask the COO, right? But if you're always asking the COO the big questions, even though they're small, it's kind of a waste of time and utility.
I think so. People in general context have to understand that it's not a digital tool. It's actually a resource that you are hiring at maybe half the cost,
Exactly.
and you'll have to delegate and you have to manage it ultimately when decisions are to be taken.
Yeah, I mean, and like we keep on saying, right? A digital coworker. We brought on an intern recently, right? Like that person does very different work than my VP of operations. And both of them are valuable and bring something to the team. So you're just going to need to know when do you route it to which person. So, I mean, at the end of the day, if you gotten anything out of this, right, I just ask that you just send it to one specific person who needs to hear this, right? I'm not asking you to broadcast share this. That's not what I'm asking. Just share it with one person. And then I just want to say thank you to everyone that listened on Johnny. Thank you for the time that you put into these questions. And I just value and appreciate all y'all.